I'm happy to announce our next major club fishing tournament, the Spring Bass Bash, brought to you by the Basscast. The event is going to run from Saturday, April 26th through Sunday, June 15th at midnight. This is the biggest tournament I have done so far with over 13 cash prizes. I'm giving away $500 to the first place in the largemouth division and the smallmouth division, $200 to second place in both divisions, $150 to third place in both divisions, and that's not all. I'm giving away a plaque from first all the way to fifth place in both divisions, and I also have Big Fish Awards. I am giving away $100 plus a plaque to the 3 largest largemouth caught during the event. I am giving away $100 plus a plaque to the largest smallmouth caught in Pennsylvania waters, the largest smallmouth caught in Maryland waters, and the largest smallmouth caught in Virginia waters. But that's not all. I am also doing a side quest challenge here. I'm giving away $100 plus a plaque to the largest snakehead caught, $100 plus a plaque to the largest bluegill or sunfish caught, $100 and a plaque to the largest rock bass caught, and $100 plus a plaque to the largest crappie caught. This is over $1,700 in cash prizes, and there's so much more. Go check it out. Registration will continue all the way through May. If you'd like to join the event, check the link in the episode description for more details. Look at the episode description down below, click on the link, and you can sign up down below. Thank you. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Fishing the DMV. I'm your host, Thomas Ahrens, and today I have on Ryan Lachniet, who just won the Bass National Qualifier on the James River. He's got a really cool story that we're going to be going over today. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. It should be fun.
So, I mean, before we get into the James River, I'd really like to know a little bit more about you. Like, how did you get into fishing?
I've really just fished my whole life, but I mean, just kind of, my dad got me into fishing when I was really young, but tournament fishing I kind of got into when I was like 12 or 13. And like, I just fished small stuff like, you know, local tournaments, like Fish as a Man, legacy stuff like that. And then I got into high school stuff, and high school led into college. College led into Toyotas. Toyotas led into, you know, everything I'm doing now. So it's kind of just been a gradual journey.
What was the hardest part of that evolution? Was it high school, college, going into the Toyotas? What was the first really, I don't know, adversity, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Going from high school to college.
Really?
That's definitely the big, yeah. But kicked in college my freshman year. That was good.
Where did you go to college?
Campbellsville.
Mm.
It's in central Kentucky. Now I'm just taking some classes for my master's online so I can still fish.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's the way to go. Would that be, what is it? Are you a double senior then? Like, how do they do that?
So they consider me a junior because I graduated college in 2 years. And then taking like technically, you know, 5th year classes, but it's my 3rd year fishing for them.
Going away to college, were you able to fish a lot of tidal water? Or once you went off to college, started fishing more of the TVA stuff, did it take you some time to kind of get back onto the East Coast?
No, I mean, it's definitely 2 like completely different games, but I fished so much tidal stuff that like when I came back, it was like, I get to do the fun stuff again.
Is the James River someplace that you have a lot of history on?
Yeah, I mean, that was like where I started tournament fishing. So I fished the James a lot. That's definitely my home lake. I'm technically closer to Anna, but I fish the James way more.
There's probably way more tournaments on the James with better purses than Anna, sadly.
Yeah. Way more big tournaments for sure. There's a bunch of small stuff on Anna, but you know, I like the big stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, you got like the Sunday Elites and things like that. The Elite 70s will go there for the teams and the Alpha Series as well. But yeah, a lot of the big payout stuff, BFLs, B.A.S.S, man, yeah, you have to go to a place like a Kerr or a James. And what's interesting about the James to me, with so many of the people I have on, I feel like that place really does have more of a home field advantage than, let's say, the Tidal Potomac, in my opinion. You can, in theory, just power pole down in Belmont Bay, and you have just a big of a shot of doing well. The James, you know, you can find some sneaky stuff if you grow up there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to fish on the James. I mean, it's got like legit probably 80 miles of water that tournaments get one out of, and the Potomac has like 5. Like there's like 3 things. And then I mean, if you give it like June when most of the tournaments are there, it's like literally like 2 creeks. You got like Belmont, which is basically where almost everything's won, and then Mattawoman.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, even there, and you know like exactly where to go, you're gonna have so much company that it kind of hurts your ability to put yourself ahead of everyone else.
With that into consideration about the time of year, this being a late April event on the James, were you expecting it to be into a full blown spawn, or was it going to be more pre-spawn because of the cold winter we had? What were your thoughts going into it?
I thought it was going to be like pretty much just like full spawn tournament, but it was definitely more like post spawn stuff than I expected.
That's crazy, man. Because it seems like so much of Virginia, the fish, they want to go shallow now compared to like last year where it was like super warm in February, and the fish, the spawn was very just patchy and all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think we could just be like really between waves on the James. Like there could still be a wave that's gonna come up, but everything I really saw was, you know, either fish that were spawning or post spawn. And for the most parts, like post spawn stuff. Like I didn't find very many females at all.
I wonder if that's why the weights were down so much.
For sure. I honestly, I think I weighed in, you know, the 2 big ones I caught the last day. Other than that, I didn't have a 4-pounder. And to catch like 16.5 pounds a day on the James with no 4-pounders is kind of weird. Like that's not something I do a lot.
I think it was like 4 or 5 shows ago, a neat question came up where it's like a superpower to have. And to me, one of them is to know if you're going to be dealing with a slugfest or if it's going to be a scratch and claw thing, and understand that in the tournament early so you can make adjustments. I mean, I got my ass kicked at Lake Anna in an earlier one where if I just tried to guts and nuts it, I probably would have cashed a check. But I assumed because it was pre-spawn spawn at Lake Anna, it was going to be a slugfest. Was there a point in time in practice or during the event where you're like, oh shit, this is going to be kind of a little bit tighter than usual for the James?
I don't know. Like I kind of based it off of like past year results, and like I don't know. Like I was really basing it off of two tournaments. It was the Open that Polnick won, and then the Open that I think Kenta won.
Kento? I think that's his name.
And I was like, this is. It wasn't fishing like the year that Kenta won at all. So I figured the weights were going to be lower because like that tournament, it seemed like you could go in the pits and just stay around the James and like you would catch big ones. Like catching 3 and 4 pounders was like, you know, something you did almost every day in practice. And like it wasn't like a rare occurrence. And like from everyone I talked to, like catching a 3 or 4 pounder was not easy in practice, and it wasn't for me. So I figured the weights were going to be a little low. I didn't think they were going to be as low as they were, though.
When you're dealing with a low weight event like this, you're going to be highly pressured. Was your game plan to kind of stay closer to the ramp, or are you going to think about making a long run, you know, down closer to the chick? Like what was your game plan before day one?
In practice, I was considering staying around the ramp, but like I spent a day around there, and I didn't really find much around there. I don't fish around Osborne a lot to begin with. I'm more of a Chickahominy guy. So, you know, when I went down there and I found, you know, some of my stuff was working pretty decent, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna send it down here, get away from some of the boats. And if the weights weren't gonna be super high, I thought I could do better down there than I could around Osborne. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna run.
Interesting.
Which was definitely a commitment because I think I ran about 400 miles in the tournament.
Good God, man. Holy shit. It's, dude, yeah, that's a strategy, but that is a hell of a run if people haven't done it from Osborne all the way down to Chickahominy River. And specifically with the river, generically speaking, the last couple of years been fishing pretty good, the James proper itself. Hunter Smith came on. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, you were breaking up.
Oh, you're fine.
What were you saying?
No, I was just saying, like, Hunter Smith was talking about that a while ago, that like it seems like it flip flops. Like some years the chick is on, some years the James proper is on.
Yeah, for sure. I thought the James was going to be on before the tournament, and then when I started practicing, and Connor Jacobs, the guy that got second, he was staying at my house, and he had fished the college tournament here a couple of years ago, and he was like, I'm staying in the pits, like that's what I'm doing the entire week, and I was like, you can have, I don't want to be in there, but he was fishing in there, and he didn't really catch many big ones, and I was like maybe it's not going to play that well, and it kind of didn't.
Why?
I think it was just a little late for 2 weeks earlier. It would have been dominated out of that part of the river.
Why didn't you want to stay in the pits?
I just don't like going in there and it's like a circus. There's like 20 boats just doing a circle, and I hate doing that.
So would that be like what like the Mata woman of the James, so to speak, just an absolute circus in there?
Pretty much. And then everyone still catches them somehow, which I don't get. I hate doing it, but it works. When it's good, you have to.
Mm. Interesting.
I mean, out of it, I'm going to stay out of it.
I mean, that's fascinating to me, because you have one guy that basically comes up a little short. Again, guys, you don't know Connor. Had 51 pounds, 5 ounces. Ryan hit 53.6. So tale of two different stories here. You have a guy that's going to be fishing more of the classic area to be fishing on the James. It is the Mata woman of the Potomac. There's going to be a ton of boat pressure, a ton of fish going around in circles, or you leave it to try to get some water by yourself. And going into day one, when you get down to your area, was that what you got? Was it a circus down there in the Chick, or were you able to actually find what you needed and had some space?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have that many boats around me most of the tournament. I was kind of surprised. In practice, there were a lot of people in the lower Chick and just the entire Chick, honestly. And then when I got down there the first day of the tournament, it really wasn't bad. So I was kind of surprised by it, but I would start in the Chick, and then I'd kind of work my way back to Osborne. And a lot of those creeks in the middle part of the James, I would fish those on the way back, and those gave me a lot of good fish. So those really didn't have that many boats in them either, which kind of surprised me too.
Huh. I wonder why people didn't pick the Chick. That's interesting. What was the tide like day one?
It was 3/4 of the way in, first thing in the morning down there.
Okay.
So you'd have incoming for a couple of high and going out.
Okay. Interesting.
And then by the last, pretty low first thing in the morning, and you had a lot of incoming water.
So you're fishing a rising tide the whole time?
It was mostly rising the last day. It was about half the first day.
Okay. Interesting. Was that kind of into the plan then, by going to the Chick and then working up away from the ocean, just so you could get the right tide the whole way through?
Yeah, that was my idea. My idea was, I wanted the higher tide, so I would run as far as I could and then just work the high tide back, or as close as I could to get to high tide at least.
I'm always terrified when you talk about the milk run. I mean, again, I'm a Potomac River guy. Really, you don't have to do a milk run to be successful. But with that place, you have to be so freaking on it about your timing.
Yeah.
How much time were you giving yourself between spots before you decided to bounce out of the Chick?
I wasn't really I want to give myself a time. It was more of pay attention to the tide, and when the tide got right for the area I wanted to go to next, I would kind of move to the next area. So it was more playing it by ear through the tournament than really planning it out, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. So, day one, when did things get started for you?
I made a really long run first thing in the morning, and it did not pan out at all. And then I ran about 20, 30 miles back towards the ramp. And I would say I started catching them I think at noon I had a limit for 8 pounds. It was bad. And then I caught a 3.5 pounder around noon, and then 12:30 to 1 o'clock I caught 3 really good ones. a 3.5, like a 3.25, and another 3. And then right at the end, I caught like another 2.5 pounder, and then I went back to the ramp. So it was slow the first day.
Was the place that you ended up catching those 3 real quick, was that a Hail Mary spot, or was that just part of your run that you wanted to make?
That was honestly, I figured that was going to be my best area. I was just kind of waiting for the end of the day because I thought that was going to be my best tide to hit it. So like it was planned, but I was hoping to have them a little bit better than that before then.
It's the thing with people that don't understand tide fishing, where you have to have a good tide. You have to have everything lined up to have a chance to get that window. And dear God, is it nerve-wracking when that window is like with 30 minutes left in the freaking day. But you have to be stoic and just have ice in your veins that, yeah, the bite's going to get good here. I just have to be in that area when it turns.
Yeah, I fished a BFL on the James last year, and I think it was like 1 o'clock, and I didn't have fish. Like I was sitting on nothing. And my co-angler was like tweaking. He was like, "This is terrible." And I was like, "Nah, man. Just wait. It's going to be fine." And he was like, "Nah, this is terrible." And I was like, "All right, let's go fish some good stuff." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "You're going to go fish the good stuff now." And he was like, "Whatever." Like, this kid's an idiot. And then I pulled up on like my first good spot of basically, my milk run. And I caught like 4 and 4 casts. And he was like, "What?" I was like, "I told you, man, we just had to wait for the right tide." And he was just like, "What is happening?" And then I had like 16.5 pounds and I got second.
And that's what it comes down to, man, is having that stoicism. And it sounds like the first day was kind of the iffy one, right? Where it's like when you got through day 1, did you feel like things were going to improve bite-wise?
Not really, honestly. I thought after the first day, I kind of used up my good stuff at the end of the first day.
Oh shit!
I was hoping I thought I kind of used it up because the first day I caught a 3 pounder that was spawning out cypress tree that I caught in practice, and then the second day I made a really long run, caught like all my weight, every single one I weighed in. I caught them in the first 40 minutes, and then I left the other alone. And then the last day, I actually caught a 5 pounder on the same tree where I caught the 3 pounder in practice and the first day. So I'm guessing that I caught the 3 pounder, and after I took away the male, the female just pulled up. And by the time I fished for her 2 days later, she was like first flip. She was just ready to go.
We'll get to day 3 here in a minute, because I got some bunch of questions on that when you catch a mega bag like that. And maybe that's what it is it's about being repetitive this time of year, knowing that the fit, you're going to have waves that show up. And maybe that's something. It's fascinating when you get in these tournaments, multi-day events, the micro strategies you can do between day 1, day 2, day 3, and when to make adjustments and when to be like, no, stick with the plan. And it sounds like you kind of kept stuck in with a plan and it paid off because the next wave showed up. That's got to be hard if that's the case, to stick with it regardless.
Yeah, it was definitely kind of weird because after the first day, my buddy was like, "You're going to catch him again." And I was like, "No, man, I'm going to have like 10 pounds today." And I kind of thought I was going to, honestly. Like, I didn't expect it to work again. And then, my starting spot worked out so good that I didn't have to go to any of the other stuff. So then it was like, I'm just going to run all of it the last day and see if it worked. So like the second day, I didn't really have to rely on anything because it happened so fast in the morning that like I was just like, all right, I got him good enough. Let me just like go practicing, try to find something good. And I spent like my whole day practicing. I never really found anything else. So after that, the last day, you're like, I'm just going to run the stuff that I expect to work.
Was the pressure changing at all on your spots from day 1 to day 3?
Not really. I mean, the pressure from me, I wouldn't say like most of the stuff I was fishing didn't really have that many boats fishing it. So I think most of the pressure was just from like, the pressure I put on it.
Is it because... Oh, go ahead.
Especially because a lot of them were spawning. So like a lot of the ones I weighed in were either, on bed or like just off a bed. So like I didn't really expect many new ones to come in. So most of them, there wasn't going to be much left.
Was it mostly because it was like a sneaky spawn deal versus the classic, like, the bottom of pads or cypress trees, do you think? Or is it just you lucked out that nobody else decided to do what you were doing?
I don't know if I would say it was like really sneaky, but I think it was just there wasn't a lot of them. And like you could go catch like in one stretch and catch like 20 or 30 fish and literally not catch a 2-pounder. So I think a lot of people would just do it and they just be like, this is terrible. I'm going to catch 9 pounds. And then they kind of just get. And I was more of like, I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to do it. I know if I do it enough, I'm going to catch some good ones. And like, by the end of the day, the process would work out and you'd have some good ones.
How is it confidence, yes, time on the water there, but how did you know where everyone else didn't, that if I stick through this, eventually I'll get to the bigger ones?
Just kind of experience. I mean, I've done it so many times out there this time of year that I was like, it's going to happen. Like I've done it so many days. It almost always happens. And then, in practice it was happening. It would be like you go through 20 and then you catch a good one. So I was like, it's going to happen if I do it right. So I would just commit to it and wait for it to happen.
How does the spawn on the James, just that cycle of pre, spawn, and post, how does that compare to other tidal water fisheries that you fished before? Is it very common or is it very unique?
I mean, I would say it's pretty common. I mean, like, most of them spawn on the cypress trees, and everyone fishes the same areas for spawning fish. You have a lot of people in the same areas, and then like you got the James where they all spawn in the pits. So like it's pretty common. Like I mean, it's not like a really sneaky deal. I think just having like the knowledge of the tides and knowing that river so well that you can kind of run a lot of it in one day, I think that really helped me.
No, for sure, dude. No, and it is like the James to me really is more of a pure tidal fishery again compared to like the Potomac. When you get these massive tide swings, the current can sometimes rip so hard that you can't actually have a good bite, and you really do have to just narrow down that timing. And when you went into day 3, was there a moment? Let me back up a little bit. From day 2 to day 3, when you were off the water, did you have a feeling that this was something like, oh, I'm about to do a thing? Like that's got to be very surreal that you're in striking distance when things are about to go down.
I mean, I was like 3.5 pounds behind. So I was like, if I'm going to win this thing, I got to crush it.
Getting into day 2, after you made your run, you caught them all real quick. You did some practicing. You get back to the house. What were your thoughts going into day 3?
I mean, I kind of just thought if I was going to have any chance to win, I was 3.5 pounds behind, so I was going to have to go catch like 20 plus. So, that wasn't really my game plan going into the first 2 days. My game plan going into the first days was just, catch them as good as I thought I could with the stuff I found in practice. And the last day I was like I knew I had to throw some curveballs in there because like I didn't think I could just go run my stuff and catch 20. And, I thought to have any chance to win, I was going to need at least 20 just to catch up. So, I didn't really think I had like a great shot at it. I thought it was possible, but like I didn't think it was probable.
Did you, going into that then, were you thinking about just slinging a glide bait or a big swim bait, just hoping to hit bait dirt, or was it just to still stick with the plan?
My plan was, hit the 2 areas, the area that I caught them in the first day and the area that I caught them in the second day, lean on those 2 a lot, and then just go fish like as many spots where I've caught, a random 5-pounder. Not really a random 5-pounder, like somewhere that I thought had potential to give me a 5-pounder between those two areas. So like I kind of, ran to my first spot, and then I caught like a 3.1 and some small ones.
Mm.
And I was like, I was hoping for more. I had, a couple hours between that and then the stuff I wanted to fish at the end of the day. And I just started running new water, and I pulled up on one stretch, and I caught like one or two small ones, and I was like, I don't know why. Like, I'm gonna spend a while here. Like, it feels right. And after being there for like 45 minutes, I pulled up on a tree, and I pitched out there and caught like a 5.5 pounder, and I was like, I got a chance now.
Again, now we're gonna pontificate here on the feeling, because that's always fascinating to me. We all have it. We get into it, whether it's a bait, an area. It's, I have a feeling here. Is there anything that you can kind of put to why you had that gut feeling that this spot had one?
Not really. I mean, it was in a part of the river where I felt like if I was gonna catch a decent amount of fish, I was gonna run into a big one. And I caught one or two pretty quick. And it just felt good. Like it just gave me that feeling where I was like, if I commit to this area for a little while, I'm gonna have a pretty good chance catching a big one.
Well,
it was mostly based off like the tide I had at the moment, and just like the history I had in the spot.
So this was like one of these places that you've been able to lean on before. It wasn't new water, so to speak.
No, I mean, it was new water for the week, but it's definitely not new water for me. Like, I've definitely, I've fished that area a lot. So, like, it was something I had confidence in.
How hard is that when you have, you have this pedigree you continue to build out with high school and college and the Toyotas and the Bass Nation? You fished everywhere. How do you, in your head, not just go back to just fishing history? Now, granted, it seems like that kind of helped you this week, but is it ever something you have to think about? Like, okay, I can't just keep doing the same old. I gotta like look at this differently.
For sure. The air, like I had one area that I thought was going to be really good for me this week, like, before practice, and it just did not pan out at all. So like, I definitely had like a lot of stuff that was historically good that I just kind of threw away. But I mean, I think there's a happy medium between knowing when to fish history and like knowing when to fish in the moment, if that makes sense.
And that's what I think separates, the goods from the greats, is to be able to have that instinct to know when to do what.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's kind of hard. Like, that's one thing I don't like about fishing big tournaments around the house is like, I don't want to lean on my history. And I think that's something that I've gotten better at just with traveling with people in college. Like, I go and I travel with, 20 guys on my team, and we all have like a different outlook. So like, I kind of have tried to look at their outlook on stuff and just kind of seeing how like, they're going to go catch them their way, and I'm going to catch them my way. Like, my way isn't the only way to do it. So like, I don't want to be stubborn in my way when I'm out there. Like, I want to do like the highest percentage option, not what's highest percentage in my mind, but what's physically the highest percentage option.
I think that's also where that's what's so interesting when you get guys that come from out of town. Eric comes to mind for this tournament, from Illinois, or I've seen people from Ohio or Michigan come down to the Potomac and kick ass. And it's like, they just look at things differently, where it's like, oh yeah, that was always there. But I don't know, we outthink the room as locals basically versus somebody that doesn't fish here 24/7. Yeah.
I mean, like, Connor would tell me stuff. Like, I would talk to him during practice and he'd be like, I just did this. And I was like, why the heck did you do that? Like I would never do that. Like, how did that work for you? I don't know. It's kind of interesting just to see like a complete different outlook on it. Cause like, I feel like especially around
where we're at, we got a lot of tidal water. We just get so stuck in our ways that like we just don't think you can do anything else, and it's just not the case.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's always fascinating to me when you get some people that aren't from around here, aren't tidal rats, and they go and they always open up something a little bit different. I mean, even Albemarle Sound, when the elites went there a couple weeks ago, I was shocked that so many people didn't fish close to the ramp. Like that kind of blew my mind that for the most part, he had it to himself.
Yeah, he really did. But like, I don't really know if anyone stayed around there, like other than Kyle. Like, I think he was like literally the only one that stayed there.
Yeah, but there's so many freaking big fish there, and maybe it's because it's just it's like so obvious. You're like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna fish here. I'm gonna play 4D chest, and I'm gonna haul ass to Back Bay or something like that. When didn't need to.
No, you did not. I mean, that place just has giants everywhere. Where like I think my mindset going into that would be like there's big fish in so many different areas in this river. Like, why would I stay here? Like, like why wouldn't I drive away and get away from everyone? Which was the opposite of what you were doing. You were driving away to get to the people.
Yeah, and weather I think has to do with it too. I just feel like when you have tidal spring events, that and small craft advisor warning go hand in hand. I mean, Lord knows how many tournaments have been canceled on the Potomac and the Upper Bay so far this year. So when you have Albemarle Sound or the James this year, I would have been like, I don't want to bet my whole strategy on having to make a long run if the winds are a problem.
Yeah. I was pretty happy I didn't have that issue this week. I looked at the wind and I was like, oh, that's gonna be pretty nice, because like I've made that run in some bad weather. I made it in Hurricane Matthew one time, and I was like, why did I do that? I was like, why did I do it? It was me and my buddy were in like an 18-footer, and it was awful.
Dude, yeah, more power to you. Chaz, I've had him on the show, man. He will run 200,000 miles. He doesn't care for 14 pounds. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's worth it, man, to do that. And just waste so much fishing time is the thing. I mean, you got to be just really dialed to make sure like you get there and you start catching them real freaking quick.
Yeah, I know. Like when we went up to St. Lawrence, people were like, you don't have much time. And I was like, oh, it's just an hour run. Like, I do that every week at home. Like, who cares?
What's harder to run, the St. Lawrence or the James when the James gets nasty?
St. Lawrence. St. Lawrence for sure. Because, like, when it's windy on the St. Lawrence, the entire thing's rough. Outside of, like, a couple small stretches, like, that place gets bad. And then, the James, if it gets really windy on the James, you're going to have, like, 2 bad stretches. And like I would rather be on the James than the Potomac for sure. Potomac gets terrible.
Oh, Potomac's it's a freaking nightmare, dude. It really is.
I was up there for the Toyota last year, and I was like, I was in Belmont, and it was towards the end of the day. I think it was the last day of the tournament, and I was like, man, it's like 4 miles across the river. I don't even want to go. That was enough. Like I was like, I can't imagine. One guy was running like 40 miles that day, and I was just like, no, dude, like you couldn't pay me enough to do it. I'm not doing that.
No, and I mean, I guess to me it also gets down to, do you have somebody paying for your gas, and do you have somebody that can give you a brand new outboard if stuff hits the fan with it, because it's something that kind of should go into your thought process is, if you're a professional, who cares if you lose your transom or something like that? It doesn't matter. But for us mere mortals, okay, great. I'm running all this way here to win a BFL. Like, okay, but then if I gut my transom or lose my lower unit, it's like, it's a wash. Yeah, it's fascinating, those strategies that go into it. But again, like with the Potomac, you don't really have to milk run. Whereas the James, it's just so many sneaky spots that if you know it helps you out. And you can run all these little creeks and stuff. Personally, I think it's the biggest home field advantage there is a place like the Delaware River or the James River compared to like the Smallmouth or the Potomac River, places like that. Like I feel anyone random can go in there and do it, but you get 30 years on the James or the Delaware River, that's a hell of a leg up.
Yeah, I think the one that stands out in my mind that's like insane home field advantage outside of the James would be like the TVA. The TVA, like, if you're out there all the time, those guys know what's up. Like they don't lose.
Did college help you at all with that, or was that really just jarring? And did you ever kind of get over that weirdness of the TVA system?
College definitely helped me with it. Like I don't do bad on the TVA. I tend to do pretty well, but like I never compete to win. Like the locals just always wreck them so good that like when I show up to a tournament at the TVA, I'm like, I'm just trying to finish in the 5th to 20th range. Like that's where my good tournament comes into play. Like top fiving a tournament on the TVA is, if you're not a local, it feels impossible.
Why? What about it is so daunting?
They catch them so good. Like they never miss. Like those guys that live out there, they catch, like on Pickwick, they catch all winter. They catch 30 some pounds every day. Pickwick's probably the one that sticks out the most to me.
Pickwick is really coming on lately, and I remember when Chickamauga was like the darling, and that place has gone through a little bit of a downtrend.
Yeah,
but you're still dealing with current. I mean, it's not like 2 lunar cycles or anything like tide, but you're still dealing with when are they pulling water, when are they not pulling water. So it seems like they set up kind of like the same generic concept, right?
sorta. I know like most of those guys that like dominate the TVA, they have like so many just really like niche spots where they'll pull up and they'll make like 5 or 6 casts and like they'll know, and then they'll just pull up the next one. And like, for me, like if I went to this place and I practice, like say I go to Pickwick and I practice all week, I'll find like 2 or 3 of these areas. They'll have like 60. So like they're going to catch them. Like if one of their areas doesn't work, who cares? They got 59 more of them. Like their stuff is going to work out. Where you just like you can't find that much in practice. So like if you don't live out there and you're fishing against a bunch of locals, they're gonna have so many more areas to run, and their understanding of how those fish set up is just beyond me. Like I can't even begin to understand it. Like I've talked to some of them and they're just like, yeah, you just go do this. And I'm like, what do you mean you just go do that? Like I did that all week. It didn't work. like I think it's just second nature to them. Like, I mean, I feel like it's the same to people that fish Tidal all the time. Like I'm just, when people ask me about Tidal, I'm just like, you just find a low tide pattern, you find a high tide pattern, you fish them at the right tides. And they're like, but how do you know when the right tide is? I'm just like, you just do, man. Like,
and I think there's an antithesis here, especially when I have like North Carolina guys, South Carolina guys. They sweat bullets when you tell them like, oh, you want me to power pull down for 8 hours and not move? I can't do that. And Tidal, worst case scenario, it lends itself to saying like, this is the right spot. I'm here at the wrong time. I'm going to camp. But so many lakes, it's the opposite. It is 5 casts and move, 5 casts and move. And it seems hard to be able to be good at both, to have both mindsets. Like, how do you feel about your mindset bouncing between Tidal, TVA, North Carolina lakes, places like that, Smith?
I don't know. I don't think you can really like, I don't know. When I go back to the James or like to a Tidal place, like my thought process is completely different. Like it's still like, like I'm still thinking in percentages most of the time. Like, what can I do to put myself around the highest population and, what gives me the best chance to win. But when I'm around Tidal fish, it's like, what gives me that chance at this time of day? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't think like that at other places because you don't have to. So I feel like it's really just like adding another element. Like you just don't have to turn that part of your brain on when you're not fishing the Tidal stuff. And when you go back to it, it's kind of fun for me. Like I just am like, I get to use this skill set that I have that I don't get to use very often. So like it doesn't really feel like I'm changing a lot. It's just honestly it's just kind of fun to do it.
How much did forward-facing sonar work into your game plan on the James, if at all?
Not a lot. I mean, I use it, but like I don't depend on it at the river at all. I just kind of really just go fishing, and then I'll use it as a tool. And like I feel like a lot of people don't understand that, and I think that's why it gets so much hate. Like it doesn't do anything. Like you can see underwater, but like that's it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're seeing underwater. Live scope doesn't give you fish. Like it doesn't put you around fish. It doesn't make them bite. And if you're doing the wrong thing with it, it's absolutely useless. So especially when I'm fishing like tidal stuff, I'll use it as a tool, but I don't rely on it very much at all.
We saw in the Pasca tank when the Bassmaster have, you can use this stuff very effectively in 3 inches of water. Were you using it for practice just to kind of like just clarify areas? Like how would you incorporate it?
The biggest thing I used it for in practice was to tell how big stuff was that I was shaking off. So like I would, I'd flip up to a tree, I would get a bite, I'd be like, it would swim off the tree. Like, I wouldn't have a hook on it. And it would swim off the tree. I'd pan over there, be like, all right, that's like a 3-pounder. And then I would just shake it off and keep going. I think that was the biggest advantage I had out of it in practice. And in the tournament, I mean, there was a couple fish that like I would power pole down and fish for a while.
Did you feel like they were on beds? Is that what they were relating to?
Yeah. Yeah. The ones I would fish for a while, they were on bed.
Interesting.
It was pretty similar to what Kyle was doing, just not quite as shallow because he was shallow.
No, he was stupid shallow. I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he's probably got such a big ass screen. It makes it a little easier. I have a 10-inch right now. It would be hard as hell to see that separation the way he had it. I was surprised the fish weren't as gun shy. How far were you trying to get your boat set up and positioned to these fish? Did you have it like at 90, 150 feet? 30 feet?
I would kind of get pretty close to them. I'd probably power pole down like 30 feet from most of them.
Damn, they did not care that you were on top of them.
No, they don't care. I mean, with the water being so dirty, like they don't know.
Well, it's an interesting thought because sometimes people think that they can feel the size of the boat. They can hear the clicking. I mean, I think in gin clear water, like they can see the boat shadow, stuff like that. That's why I probably have to set it at 150 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Or they're just so dialed on the spawning aspect that they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Like the biggest one I caught on the last day, I didn't have to fish for her very long. I probably threw at her 5 times.
That's pretty awesome.
Like, I mean, I actually pulled up on that tree and like I would just flip out there. Like I don't see anything on the tree. I just flip out there, and then like one would follow it down. I was like, guess there's one there. And for that one, I actually flipped out there and like a 2-pounder followed it down. And I was, at the time I had like 10 pounds, so I was like, trying to catch the 2-pounder, and then I noticed one sitting there next to her, and I was like, that's not a 2-pounder. Then I got that one to bite, and I was like, dude, get the net.
Depending on where you are, there's issues where if you catch the buck first, you're going to have issues with the female. Were there any problems like that you're working towards? Like, oh, I don't want to catch you. I'm going to pull the bait away to make sure I can get this other one.
Honestly, that big one that I caught was the only time I saw 2 on a bed.
Wow.
And the other big one I caught was the female from one I caught in practice, like the first day of the tournament. But like I didn't see the female there. Like I caught the 3-pounder, and then 2 days later I come back and then there was one twice the size sitting there, and I was like, oh, I guess the female's here now. Like I had no clue that it was there.
And was your vibe that it was in between waves, or was it post spawn? Like,
I think they were kind of just finishing up, honestly.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, I think it was, late spawn. I could be wrong. Like there could be another wave coming at the next full moon, but it felt pretty late to me.
It
Just with
feels,
the lack of females that I saw.
yeah, it's interesting like how this winter is affected all the spawning around our area. Because again, last year, guys, we had a really warm winter. It was super warm. I remember fishing a couple of Federation thing at Lake Gano last spring, and it was April, and the fish were just kind of meh. It was very spotty, the spawn. And then this year, it feels like everywhere they were chomping at the bit to get up on the beds as best they could because it was so cold. So
Yeah.
Potomac, at least right now, it's like they're just now thinking about potentially getting on the beds. Whereas last year, this time they were all in the pads. So it is interesting how that cold winter has affected things.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. Yeah, I wasn't here last year, barely at all. So, I mean, I haven't fished the James in April for I fished it 2 years ago in a college tournament, and that's been it since before college. So it's been a long time since I've really fished the spawn on the James.
So it's like a brand new river to you then.
Kind of. It's definitely different. Like I don't feel like as dialed as I used to be.
That's interesting because you won, and it's like, is there something to be over dialed? I mean, the idea of like home field advantage, and that's kind of hard to do, is win on your home body
I think
of water.
for sure, because like when you go out there every week, you just take areas and you're just like, yeah, I didn't catch them there. Like that area sucks, and like that's just not the case. Like especially in tidal stuff, like you'll go through an area and it'll be bad, and 2 weeks later, it'll be the best area in the river. Like you can never somewhere and just it be bad and just like cut it right. Like you have to think about everything out there.
Well, and again,
why?
Dude, you're so right. Because again, that's why I tell kids, high schoolers, all that stuff that come into the area. Tidal is the hardest thing to practice for because you have to just almost fish one creek. If you've never been on to like the James or Potomac up or whatever, you have to pick a creek, fish that creek all day through the tide swings to figure out, okay, is this a high tide spot, low tide spot? Well, if you extract that out to 3 or 4 creeks, that's 3 or 4 days you have to practice. You can't just bounce around a couple of creeks that you don't know about. You really need to intimately know them through all the tide swings to know where they set up.
For sure. And that was something I did this week in practice. I would my buddy that was staying with me, Connor, he would get out there like first in the morning and fish all day. And I'd be like, I'll go later. And he's like, why? I mean, the tide's terrible right now. Like, I don't need to see that tide. I'm not going to see it in the tournament. And he was like, I guess. And then I'd go out there and I'd fish the tide that I was going to fish in the tournament. And I'd get off the water. Okay, that's all I need to know. Like, I stayed in one small area today. I fished through the tide that I wanted to see, and that was it. Because, honestly, if you're out there and you're fishing stuff, even if it's the best stuff in the river, if it's not the tide that you're going to have or the right tide for it, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just wasting time.
Speaking of wasting time, when you're dealing with those betters like that, do you power pull down and just junk fish with every damn bait in your box? Or do you say, like, these are my 3 or 4 comfort baits. If they don't bite, I'm moving to the next one?
Depends on how bad I needed that fish. Like if it was one that I wasn't super concerned with, I would just throw it out a couple times, be like, whatever. And I go to the next one. But I had one that I fished for the first day and the third day, and I probably spent 20 minutes on him both days, and I threw everything I had at him, and I could never get that fish to bite. But I mean, it was like a 4 or 5 pounder. So it was worth that time, but it didn't pan out for me because I never got her to bite. But there was 2 pounders that I would cast at twice and be like, oh well.
Did you see all the fish that you caught day 2 in that little power flurry you had?
No, I didn't scope any of those.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I think I only weighed in 4 or 5 off scope.
That's a nice healthy split then, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of just no scope. Like, I mean, a lot of them I would just like throw up to a cypress tree and just start swimming away. And I was like, ah, cool.
Dude, the cypress tree bite, man, that's something you could probably run a clinic on. That's such a unique thing to deal with when you're dealing with cypress trees, depths, the knees, the different nooks and crannies that they get on. And it's such a southern thing because I guess honestly, maybe it is the James is this most northern southern river that has it, because I don't think the Rappahannock has cypress. I know Potomac pretty much does not have cypress. Upper Bay doesn't have cypress. Just to get
You can't tell me.
yeah. And so just to sit there and to be able to pick those apart. And again, it comes down to the time thing when you're dealing with that, where the nice thing about fishing a submerged grass bed or something like that on, again, Upper Bay, Potomac, you can cover the water, figure out where they are, get dialed. When you are doing a pad flip bite, a dock or a cypress thing, you're burning time in practice, hitting and working all the different places. Like, so do you give yourself like a stopwatch on a row of cypress?
Like in the tournament or in practice?
Ooh, both.
I wouldn't say I give myself a time limit, but like, you know, and the first day of the tournament, I was kind of running out of high tide, so like I would actually pull up on like the shortest, like the stretch, and I would just fish through like just the highest percentage of it, and I would leave and go to the next stuff. Where like the second day of the tournament, you know, I had my limit pretty quick, and I would just fish through the entire stretch that I wanted to fish. So, I mean, it really just depends. Like in practice, if I'm pulling up on an area, and, you know, if I only have 3 areas that I want to check that at that tide, I'm going to fish through them really slow. I'm going to fish through like all of it. But if I got like 7 or 8 areas, I'm going to fish through them really quick. I'm going to just enough to know what's kind of happening in that area. Because like I don't necessarily try to get like super dialed in and try like, you know, what the exactly what's the best, because I don't want to get spun out if I pull up on like, you know, my quote unquote best stretch and it doesn't work, and I'm like, well, it's better than everything else I have, which realistically most of the time what you find in practice that you think is the best doesn't end up being the best.
No, 100%.
So yeah, so I try to just kind of, you know, get like the big picture in practice and then break it down in the tournament.
Why cypress versus, let's say, docks for that high tide bite?
Just I fished both in practice. It just seemed better this week.
Okay.
And like I know, you know, a lot of times those marsh banks play too.
And they seem to get less pressure too, comparatively.
Yeah, they do. And like some years those are great, and some years they aren't. And they could have been great this year, but I never really got on that bite either.
Now, did you ever try to go back to the dam and try to make that play like Brandon did?
That's where I caught him the second day.
Oh, well, then there you go.
Yeah.
That's
why it happened so quick.
Were the shad running? Because I think the year Brandon did, there was a big shad run.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they were up there. That's what I expected that to be like. Like if I was just going to go up there and catch a few, like I was going to catch some big ones. And I caught one off at the first day. It was a 1-pounder. Yeah.
Setting the world on fire.
Like someone was like, "Are you going to go back there?" And I was like, "Yes." And they're like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because like I have to, dude." And they're like, "But you caught 1-pounder." It's like, it doesn't matter. Like I got to go back. And then I pulled up on it the second day and I caught 16, 12, whatever I had in like 40 minutes. Still didn't have 1 over 4. My biggest one was like a 370. And then the last day I pulled up on it and I caught a 3-pounder and then some 2-pounders.
How did you have that to yourself? That's insane. I mean, relatively so. Like, that's impressive.
No idea. I mean, it wasn't great. Like, there was very small windows where you could catch them. And, like, you know, there wasn't giant ones on it for some reason. And I think, they've made it off limits in like all the local tournaments. So, Bassmaster is like the only tournaments that let you fish it.
Do the BFLs let you do it?
Not anymore.
Okay. Interesting. But
Bassmaster, the only one.
I guess to me, it's such an obvious. You can look at a map and draw like this is a place. It's been hot before. Everyone knows about it, and maybe it is. It's like one of those obvious places. So people are like, yeah, this is out of play. There's no point in throwing this because everybody knows that spot can be hot.
Yeah.
And I guess it's one thing if you were there and you caught them and there were a bunch of other people around. It's just interesting and it blows my mind. Like you kind of just snuck in there and pretty much had it to yourself. It's kind of like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, dude, that's...
Yeah. Well, I didn't weigh him like, in the big picture, I didn't weigh him a lot of fish off of it. The second day I weighed in 2 of them actually off the dam, and then like 3 of them were just, upriver. And then the last day I only weighed 1 off of it.
But if you think about the flow of your day, does the flow of your day change if you don't go there and you catch? Yeah, you see. So that's what's interesting.
Yeah, it was a big player for me for sure.
Yeah, because it's funny. Like in hindsight, you can always say like, okay, what I did, it didn't matter because all the fish I called out. But then it's like, but at the moment when you show up and you get a limit real quick, I think your mindset changes, the way you fish changes, your decisions change, everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was where I caught him on a mag, so that was pretty cool.
Which is spoiler. I mean, there's no shock there. Like that is mag draft central.
Yeah, a big shock. But that was definitely fun. You're running up there, 65 miles to it the first day to catch 1 1-pounder. It wasn't that,
but you had the stones to then be like, yeah, I'm rolling the dice again, baby, and we're gonna do it again. Like again, that's the knowledge, the gut, whatever you want to say, to be like, yeah, this is the deal. I need to do it again and see if it hits.
Yeah, I actually fished it twice in practice, and the first day I pulled up on it, I fished it for like 2 hours, and I caught 1 like 2-pounder. And the last day of practice, I put in Route 5, fished downriver a lot, and then on my way home, I stopped at Rockhawk and I fished it for like 30 minutes, and I caught like 2, 4.5, a 4.5, a 4, and 3 in like literally like 10 minutes, and I was like, I'm coming here. So then after it didn't work the first day, I was like I know it's gonna work eventually. If I do this all 3 days, it's gonna work once.
What's one thing you look back on that you tell yourself before this tournament starts?
What do you mean?
Like if you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing of advice before this tournament starts, what would it be?
I don't know. It's a good question. Probably not go there the first day.
But if you don't go there the first day, would you go there the second day?
I almost didn't go there the first day and just left it for the second day. So probably. But, yeah, I mean, I don't think going up there and catching 1 1-pounder made my decision to go back the second day any easier. I think it didn't make me feel like I was going to. But I knew I was going to win. I had to catch them upriver a little bit. Because I knew my stuff wasn't going to give me enough weight to win in over 3 days. I had to mix it something, whether it was upriver Chickahominy or upriver James. I had to pick one.
Dude, I mean, you made the right decisions. I mean, again, guys, like 53 pounds, 6 ounces. Your James River Bass National Qualifier. Where do you go from here? I mean, I think we talked a little bit off air. You're fishing the alphas. You opted out of not, of course, fishing the Smith one this past weekend, which was a good choice. What's next for you?
The rest of the opens, I'm fishing those. So, yeah, those are gonna be fun. But those are those are crazy. I mean, because you just have so many people fishing those, and I mean, like, what you can gain out of those tournaments is so high that like there's just so much pressure on you. So like I really enjoy fishing those. Those are really fun. And I got 2 opens left, and then as long as I don't just completely bomb somehow in both of them, I'll have the 3 EQs in the fall. So those I'm really looking forward to.
What do you mean you have a lot to gain from it? Do you just mean by like the Bassmaster Classic and fame and fortune and all that?
Making the elites, you know, that's the goal. So, you know, that's on the line.
How nervous are you with the Northern Swing?
For the rest of the opens, I'm not really too nervous for those. I had 2 good finishes in the first 2, so I'm sitting pretty good in points. So just making the top 50, I feel pretty good about that. Making the elites and the 3 EQs in the fall, that I'm pretty nervous for.
I think you'll do fine, dude. I mean, you've basically sampled a little bit of everything the fishing world has to offer when it comes to blueback lakes, TVA, Tidal, smallies. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is just to get a little bit of flavor for all of them, so that way you can get out there and get work done.
For sure.
Ryan,
national championships college this summer, so those will be fun too.
Where's that at?
I got the ACA national championship on Hartwell, and then the Bassmaster national championship on Cherokee.
I swear to God, it's like Hartwell is one of those 5 lakes that if you get good at, you'll always like have a chance at professional fishing. Because that place, dear God, every year it's got a couple of big tournaments.
Oh yeah, that place they beat it to death. They like that place.
They do. And again, you know, it's a good place. Don't get me wrong, but it definitely shows you that if you're like good at like the James River, the St. Lawrence, Lake Hartwell, these are just a couple of places that you have to fish and get some experience if you really want to make it to the next level.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. I mean, I think having just the experience that I've gained from college is huge. I think honestly going to college and fishing so many college tournaments is like the best thing you can do if you want to fish professionally. Like that's just, it gives you such an advantage because by the time you're done with it, you can go to all these tournaments and you can just go learn. I mean, you don't have a lot of pressure on you. You don't have a lot of money into it. You know, for a lot of us, you know, the school's paying for all of it. So you're just out there on their dime, just fishing and just learning. And it's so helpful to be able to do that. Because, you know, by the end of the 2 or 3 years of college fishing, you know, you've got 30 or 40 college tournaments under your belt on just like places all across the country. And it just gives you so much experience. And the competition is so good down that level now that going from that level to the opens it's not really a jump. Like the competition is the same.
Okay.
So like I think that's huge, and that's why you're seeing so many young guys do well now. It's not because of live scope. Like everyone thinks it's because of live scope. No, it's because like we're all in this culture. Like, you know, there's 30 or 40 of us on a team, and we all fish like 5 days a week, and we all share information, and we all travel the country together. Like we all work together so well, and you know we're just teaching each other so much that like your learning curve is just accelerated so fast.
Yeah, because it's the same thing with any sport. I mean, look at like travel baseball, at least in Northern Virginia. I mean, when all you're doing is playing baseball 12 months out of the year and you're pitching, yeah, no kidding that you're getting really freaking good and you're seeing people that make jumps. And when I was in college, I mean, the FLW, I mean, that was the Wild West. I mean, with those events and stuff, but it's gotten so much better, so much more refined, and the talent's gotten so much better at such a younger age. It's insane.
Yeah, for sure. It's just high school and college fishing is just a factory for talent right now. And it's showing.
The other side of this, though, as you're going into the opens, the Toyotas, things like that, unlike college tournaments, it's not free. Does college help you at all with understanding how to get sponsors?
Not really. Not the sponsor wise. I think it definitely helps to show how much money you spend. It's like, I mean, if I go to a college tournament and I'm fishing for Campbellsville, they'll give me a school card, and while I don't have to pay for it, I use the card. Like, I see how much money I'm spending for all of their money.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, like, you put a $2,000 entry fee on top of it, and you're spending a lot of freaking money.
How hard was it to get
like,
sponsors to do that next jump to the Opens, or is that something you're just funding out of pocket?
I'm funding it mostly out of pocket. Green Top helps me. They're my biggest sponsor, but mostly out of pocket.
That sucks.
Yeah, no, it puts a lot of pressure on you. So, like, when I started fishing Toyotas, I was like, I have to catch them. Like, I don't have a choice. Like, I have to catch them or I'm out of money. So it definitely adds a lot of extra pressure, which honestly, I almost feel like helps. Because when you have to catch them, at least for me, I tend to do better when it's, do or die.
It's interesting because, like, I think, you can get, it's personality, 100%. Some people will stress out. Some people don't fish as clean. It is interesting when you go from college and it's, you're playing with house money to the Toyotas, the Opens, where it's like, okay, I just did all of this. I got to catch them here. I could easily see people also stressing out and spinning out their wheels too.
Yeah. I think for me, like, if I'm at Open and I'm struggling in practice, like the Tom Bigby a couple weeks ago, I was struggling in practice. And like, that just made me grind so much harder and try to figure something out. While in a college tournament, I got 1 day of practice left. I haven't figured out anything. I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to suck this week. Like, oh, well. But, I don't know. I think that's a big part of it for me. Like, I think I just force myself to work so much harder.
How has your practice evolved from college to the Opens, the Toyotas, places where you are paying the money up front? Like, how has your practice, how does it evolve and how you apply it?
I don't know. Like, I've tried that out myself because, like, I tend to do better in Toyotas and Opens than I do in college tournaments. And I don't understand why. Because, like, when I go out there, like, I do the same things. Like, I practice the same ways. But for some reason, I think it's just because I put so much pressure on myself in the Toyotas and Opens to catch them that, like, subconsciously I'm just working harder. Well, it doesn't feel like I'm working harder. I think I just accidentally do it, if that makes any sense.
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Do you try to get it really dialed in?
What was that?
Do you try to get it really dialed in practice, or is it you're just keeping it very vague, high level, get an area, and then go from there?
Kind of depends on the fishery. So, like, the Tom Bigby, I tried to get just kind of like an area because I knew that was going to be a really tough tournament, and I knew I just need to go fishing. So, in practice, I had just like the lower area of one of the big pools. And, the first day of the tournament, I went in there and I kind of sucked on most of the stuff that I thought was going to be good. And then I pulled up on one stretch and I caught my limit in like an hour. And then I just spent the rest of my tournament on that stretch. While, some places like the TVA is a big place that I would go to, and I'd be like, I want to get super, super dialed because the TVA is most of the time very, very area specific. So, yeah, I had a college tournament on an MLF National Championship on Wheeler about 3 weeks ago, and that was a tournament where I just tried to get super, super dialed. Like, I spent probably half a day of practice on like one 2 mile long flat. And then I spent my entire tournament on that flat. Like, I was I was just focused on that one area, and I ended up catching like 16 a day on it. I got 13th off just one flat half a mile from the ramp.
I think that's another big piece that people miss is being able to distinguish, are you dealing with a pattern body of water or an area body of water? That will definitely mess people up. I think a great example of this is if you go to a Lake Murray, even a Hartwell, where you can run 200,000 cane piles, certain times a year. Okay, that's the overall generic pattern that you could do, and you have to mentally be prepared for that versus, okay, I have to lock myself in this flat, and even though this is a massive lake, don't move, stay here.
Yeah, for sure. I fished college tournament on Pickwick. It's probably about a month ago now, and I had like 4 hours of practice because I was coming straight from another college tournament in Oklahoma. And I spent my first day of practice like towards Counts down by the dam. Didn't figure out anything. And then the second day I was like, there's one area about mid-lake that's historically really good this time of year. I'm just going to go there and I'm going to sit there all day. And I just went there first thing in the morning, slowly caught a fish every like 40 minutes and just pulled my way up to like 17.5 pounds. And I was like, good enough. Like no practice, I'll take it. So on, a lot of places, if that wasn't a TVA fishery, I would have pulled up, caught them for like an hour or two, and I would have tried to find something new. But like on the TVA, it doesn't always work like that. Like just because you found them doing something doesn't mean they're doing that on the next area that sets up like that.
Do they leave or do they just become inactive?
On the TVA?
Yeah.
They just don't exist. like one of these stretches that look exact same. And for some odd reason, one of the stretches will have bass on it, and the rest of them will be completely terrible.
It's
really weird.
Yeah, thank
it's
God.
Really depressing.
I'm glad I don't live on those, man. That just sounds, that's bad.
It's awesome because where those good stretches are.
True.
You're just, everyone else is fishing the terrible stuff, and you're just like, that looks terrible. Why would I do that? And then you go to the good stuff. But, for someone that doesn't live there, it's practice on the TVA, like, is brutal. Like, it's terrible. Like, most of the time I do good on the TVA, I'll spend 3 days doing, just fishing, looking for something good. I'll find one area that's good. I'll catch like 2 bass there one day, and I'll be like, this area seems pretty good. And then I'll fish for, 3 more days, not find anything, and then I'll pull up on that one stretch in the tournament and I'll catch it.
That's fascinating to me. That's so cool.
It's really weird.
Especially when you're
like a lot of the TVA like that.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's so interesting. Like minus maybe like a Gunnersville or something like that has so much grass in it that probably changes that place a little bit. When you're dealing with these,
Gunnersville's definitely a little different. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at least from everyone I've talked to and had on the show, it's because of the grass. There's just a different deal there, a vibe.
For sure.
But it's interesting when you are trying so hard to make this your lifelong dream. Is this something where you'd want to move to the TVAs to just get more reps in, or just burn them with holy water and just hopefully never have to deal with them if you can help it?
I've definitely considered moving to the TVA. I don't want to because I hate fishing on the TV. But there's definitely a chance that I'll move there one day, just because like having that knowledge from living there would be so helpful. There's just so many tournaments out there. Mm-hmm. No. And it could be something where I just live there for a couple months every year.
True. That could be a thing too. I mean, you're right though. Like you can always set your watch to like, you're probably going to start in Florida and you're going to go to the TVA, and having a leg up at any of those spots is just, it's so freaking important to be. And I've messed around with that mentally. It's like, I think there's 5 lakes in the country that if you get really, really good at them, you pretty much are going to be okay at a high level. Like the Harris Chain, St. John's River, something like that. Lake Hartwell is a good one. There's a couple of places though. I just really feel like you got to get dialed in on those lakes, and you can pretty much have a career.
Yeah, it's smallmouth, herring, TVA, Florida. I mean, that's the big four to me.
And blueback, yeah. Yeah, and then the smallmouth, man, that's completely, that's a whole other creature when you're going up north and dealing with that stuff. Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Is there anything we can do shout out wise for your sponsors, or anything we can promote?
Definitely give Green Top a shout out, and Florida Fishing Products. They've been a big help to me this year. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate you inviting me on the show.
No, dude. I mean, this was a fantastic treat to be able to finally talk to you about how your story shaped up here and got you this win. Again, guys, Ryan just won the Bass National Qualifier on the James with 53 pounds, 6 ounces. I think we're going to be hearing a lot from him in the future. Guys, go check him out. Link in the episode description to everything we talked about today, including his sponsors and all of his social media. And we will see you next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye. You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.